everyone. I'm Marlene DeGeneva and I'm the market co-chair for RPNA. We are so pleased to welcome you back after our very long hiatus due to COVID, back to our monthly community meetings. I don't know about any of you, but I've really missed them. And we hope you enjoy this evening. Let me pass this on to Ishmael, and can you introduce yourself, please, Ishmael?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Ismail Afra. I am the Toronto Community Housing co-chair for the RPNA leadership team. And I'm hoping the presentation slides would work. Give me a few seconds, hopefully. So use presenter view. Okay, good, it works. So I will, so thank you for coming to our monthly meeting. We will begin shortly. If you have questions and concerns, or you'd like some information, please also use the chat and some of us will respond to you over there as well.
The purpose of our meeting tonight is simple. It's to engage, inform, and consult the community about the things we do here at RPNA. We'd like to hear from our community on the issues you have. We'd also like to hear about the topics you might like to suggest for these meetings in the future. And of course, we're here to celebrate Black History Month. Just to carry on with the rest of the agenda, we're going to have some updates about RPNA, and there'll be a question and answer period. We're going to have a spoken word artist by the name of Tiziana Francis Smith, and a wonderful speaker who will talk to us about allyship. Her name is Joy Henderson, and there'll be a question and answer period during and after her presentation, and then we'll discuss the actions and next steps. Ishmael?
Thank you, Marlene. Tonight, it's an opportunity to have conversations, but also difficult conversations and exciting conversation. So we wanted to make sure that this is a safe space for everybody. This space is dedicated to creating an equitable, diverse, and inclusive environment for people of all races, gender, classes, abilities, ages, cultures, religions, and sexualities. This is a safe space to speak. Please note that this event will be recorded and live streamed to YouTube and also translated. And I'd like to start us off with our update from the Neighborhood Association. There have been some remarkable changes within the Neighborhood Association and some of our work, and we would like to provide with you some of those interesting updates. First, I'd like to start us off by introducing you to the Regent Park Neighborhood Association leadership team. I'd like to invite Gayle to start us off. Gayle, are you able to hear me?
I sure can. So let me know if you can hear me and see me.
Yes.
Yeah, we can
Hi,
hear you.
fantastic. Hi, everybody. My name is Gayle Lynch. I am a resident of Regent Park. I've probably been here for about 10 plus years now. I am also one of the co-chairs of the Employment and Economic Development Working Group of the SDP. My passions maybe is certainly volunteering. I do that as part of my role in my day job, and also communications. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thank you,
Well,
Gayle.
welcome everybody.
So Gayle is one of our leadership team members. Second is myself, as I've already introduced myself. I am the Toronto Community Housing resident and also the co-chair for the RPNA leadership team. Next, I'd like to also get a reminder from who Marlene is. Marlene, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, as I've told you, I am a market resident and I'm a co-chair for RPNA. Let's see, I do a number of other things like everybody else in this at this table. I'm also a co-chair for the SDP, and I'm a member of the Community Benefits Coalition. I'm also with the SDP communications group, and I'm a member of the UN Steering Committee, and I represent RPNA on the Board of Directors at Daniel Spectrum. That's
Thank
me.
you. Thank you, Marlene, for introducing yourself. Next, I'd like to invite Miguel. Miguel, can you introduce yourself?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Miguel, and I am a resident of Toronto Community Housing. I live at 220 Oak Street, and I am the tenant rep for the building along with Ilona. Also a member of the Coalition for Benefits of Regent Park Phases 4 and 5, and also a member of the Regent Park Neighbourhood Association. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miguel. Next, I'd like to invite Shauna. Shauna, are you able to introduce yourself?
I suspect Shauna is in a workshop, but she'll be joining us soon.
Yes, Shauna is one of our new members. She's a well-known community advocate, and she's a Toronto community housing resident and involved in multiple advocacy projects in the neighborhood. Next, I'd like to call Waleed. Waleed, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Ishmael. Welcome, everyone, and happy Black History Month. I'm so glad 28 folks are a part of this meeting. I'm hoping we're going to get to bigger numbers before our amazing speakers. So my name is Waleed Kogali Ali. I live in Regent Park. I'm very involved, not just with the Neighborhood Association, but also with the SDP, which is the Social Development Plan Stakeholders Table. So I'm the co-chair of the Community Building Working Group. And I'm also involved with your Regent Park Community Benefits Coalition. So the coalition that was put together by the Neighborhood Association. So welcome to all of you. Zahid, you want to go next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Zahid Ali. I am, I would say, one of the newer members to the team, but I've been living in Regent Park for going on 4 years soon. And I have been involved with this team for just a couple of months, but I'm also involved in the Center for Learning and Development as a board member there. Excited that you're all here today. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you. So that is your current RPNA leadership team. And next, I'd like to invite Marlene to introduce some of our RPNA staff and support staff. Marlene.
And I'd like to start with Pavitra, who is our community coordinator. Pavitra?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I am Pavitra. I'm the RPNA community coordinator, and it's lovely to see you all. And I'm also a resident here, and I'm involved with STP and a few other things in Regent Park. And I'd like to pass it on to another wonderful staff here, Lamisa.
Hey everyone, my name is Lamisa Ahmed and I'm the volunteer recruiter support worker. So I'm just helping the youth be able to recruit volunteers through the next 2 months and just helping them along that journey. But thank you for having me.
And we also have Beanie Peters from the Community Health Center. Beanie?
Yes, I'm Deanie Peters. I'm a community development worker with Regent Park Community Health Center, and I'm a member of the service provider work group, and I provide support to the leadership team.
Thank you all. We couldn't do this work without our staff. Invaluable.
Marlene, we just got Shauna who joined our meeting. Do you want to quickly introduce Shauna?
Oh yes, Shauna, please. There, would you introduce yourself, please, Shauna? Shauna, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Could you please?
Sorry, I have a full house. Hi, my name is Shayna Orr. I'm a resident of TCHC and part of the leadership team. I'm a community advocate and love to support and volunteer in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Shauna. I think I'll move on to one of the updates that we'd like to give you, and this is truly exciting for us all because it has taken a while. Since February the 15th, RPNA has been a fully federally incorporated nonprofit entity. And as of March the 1st, we will have offices for the RPNA and the SDP in the Daniel Spectrum on the 3rd floor. Now, these are very little offices at the moment, so we're not getting too excited, but there are larger offices being built, and we hope early spring we'll be able to move into the larger space. And we're just working out exactly what we're going to be doing with it and how it's going to be used. But we're quite excited to be in Daniel Spectrum. This is really a place where we all like to be. There's so many things going on in Daniel Spectrum, and we believe that's the place we ought to be for our neighborhood. So we hope to see you there, where you can come and visit and drop in. So we're all very excited. Thank you. I think it's back to you now, Ishmael.
Yes. Very exciting news indeed. So our second update for you is around our RPNA volunteer recruitment. As many of you know, RPNA is based off of resident leadership, and the work that we do heavily depends on that. So I'd like to invite Zahid to talk about our efforts to get you engaged. Zahid?
Sure, so thank you. So as you know, there is so much happening in our community, and the engagement we have with members of the community is so important. But there is also a lot of work that needs to be done. So we are in the process of recruiting volunteers and to assist with some of the work that the RPNA is doing. And we've hired, as you've met, Lamisa, who is our volunteer recruiter, to help support with that work. And we've also partnered in the community with the Healing is One organization to support that outreach and youth with 4 youth who are helping us to do some of that volunteer recruitment. So to introduce that team, I'm going to hand it over to Lamisa.
Amazing. So this is our youth outreach team, so a leadership team essentially, and I'm going to let them take it away to see kind of what they think their objectives are, how excited they are in this role. But essentially, like Zahid has said, we are recruiting volunteers in the next 2 months and looking forward to a volunteer orientation by the end of it. But again, Adam, take it away, and then you'll hear from the rest of them.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hello, everyone. My name is Adam Omi. I'm 17 years old. I am in grade 12, student at Jarvis Collegiate Institute. I'm excited for the RPNA Youth Outreach Program. And I'm also going to introduce my friend Shariq Rahman, who unfortunately couldn't make it today. Shariq Rahman is also, he's just turned 18 years old. He's also in grade 12, and he's also excited as the rest of us. And I'll pass it on to Berasa.
Hello, everyone. My name is Berasa, and I'm a student at Jarvis, and I'm also in grade 12, but I am 17 years old, and I am looking forward to being part of this team. And I'll pass it on to my friend Harris.
What's going on, guys? My name is Harris. I'm in grade 11. I'm a bit younger than the rest of my group, but that's okay. I make up for it with other things such as charisma and other personality traits, things like that. Probably the youngest person in this call, but it gets like that. Yeah, I'm just really looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to working with this team and the rest of RPNA. We were handpicked from Healing is One, and there is a volunteer survey we want to give out to the people on this call. But as actually has the link, he will post it in the chat in a second. It's just sort of going to be explaining the roles and duties and responsibilities of everyone that would sort of be volunteering with us at RPNA. And yeah, just happy to be here.
Thank you for that. And thank you, Zahid and Lamisa, for the amazing project you're on in terms of volunteer recruitment. Next, I'd like to invite to speak on one of the most biggest projects the RPNA has been working on. And this is the Community Benefit Coalition. And I'd like to invite Waleed to talk about this piece of work that we've been doing for the past 3 to 4 years.
Thank you, Ishmael, and thank you so much for the land acknowledgement earlier. You grounded this very important conversation with that land acknowledgement. And I just want to, first of all, thank all the members of the Community Benefits Coalition, residents, the agencies and organizations that have supported this very important work. So some context, when residents found out that for phases 4 and 5, we will be looking to a new developer. We got organized, and we got organized through a community priorities process to develop a community priorities report, which we costed out to be over $100 million. What we have been able to do is we've signed a community benefits framework with Toronto Community Housing that outlines the process by which we will be able to secure the $26.75 million for the community, so they get to decide how it's been spent. We also secured community control over community benefits to the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group under the social development plan of the stakeholders table. The community also was so important in the development of the engagement and also it comes to the development and monitoring of community benefits over the lifetime of the realization. So what we did is we put forward best practices to make sure that the community is part of that very important process, and is actually this community decision making as part of it. I just want to let everyone know that this year in 2022, we will be looking for members of the Community Benefits Oversight Working Group. So please join our Community Benefits Coalition so we can help support collective work to make sure that the investments made in our community are intentional and benefit all of us, especially with the recent announcement of $26.75 million for phases 4 and 5, but more investments hopefully will be coming to our community. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Waleed, for outlining that, some of the amazing work we're doing in terms of community benefit. The next piece of work we're involved in is around the phase 4 and 5 rezoning. As many of you know, Toronto Community Housing and Tridel have announced that they will be going through a rezoning application for 4 and 5. We are engaged in the community consultation process for the rezoning of phase 4 and 5. There have been multiple community meetings around the application, the design, and in terms of how that looks like. So we've been highly engaged in those conversations. We've also been engaged in the co-designing of what's called a community facilities study with Toronto Community Housing and TCHC. So this study helps to support the service gaps and needs that the neighborhood would need in terms of the future of the neighborhood. Tridel and TCHC are putting in an application in April, and please, engage, be part of the conversation, and there'll be further community consultations that will be happening. Please connect with us and connect with TCHC in terms of how you can better be part of that process. The next piece of work we want to update you is around our involvement in the social development plan. Apologies. So the next piece of work we're involved in is around the social development plan. As many of you know, the Neighborhood Association have integrated itself into the social development plan. This is the plan that was first created when revitalization was first conceived. In a revitalized neighborhood, it stands on 2 pillars. One is the physical development, and the other one is the social development. So the Neighborhood Association has worked very closely with local residents and organizations to make sure that this social development plan is supported. So in collaboration with local residents and organizations, RPNA advocated and secured $2.5 million for the social development plan. We've also advocated and secured a permanent community development worker to support Regent Park, and also advocated and secured $50K operation funds for the social development plan until the revitalization ends. These are major victories that we've been part of, in collaboration with local stakeholders and residents. Also RPNA supports the work groups and committees of the social development plan. And part of the many reasons why we need volunteers and residents is to help us do this work through those committees and work groups. RPNA is also the co-chairs the social development plan with the executive directors network. So this is some big piece of our work that we currently engage in. I'd like to welcome one of our leadership team members, Miguel, to speak on some of our activities when it comes to safety. Miguel?
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Our community was shocked by racial profiling carding last year. And as a result, the community hosted a forum in where youth, in our case, discussed the impact of carding and racial profiling, anti-Black racism in Regent Park. So the youth advocates attending the forum have made recommendations to the Regent Park Safety Network. RPNA is participating as a member of the Regent Park Safety Network, and we're inviting everybody to come to our next meeting on Monday, December the 20th. The poster is there from 6 to 8, and we want to hear from you. Please scan the QR code on the flyer so you can register and attend. And that is an update for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Next, I'd like to speak on some of our work when it comes to what they call a few months ago, a year ago, there was an incident that happened at the Daniels Due East condominium. So this is a piece of work also we've engaged in collaboration with the Daniels Corporation in terms of how to support and how to respond effectively to incidences of hate that happens in our neighborhood. Some of the conversation and work that came out of that is a strong commitment from the Daniels Corporation to work with the Neighborhood Association on some key points. Of course, they've taken a strong stance against what had happened at that day, and what they call some of the activities and responses are listed here. But some of the more interesting pieces is our work in terms of shaping the culture and what they call in the development world. Some of the things that they're currently working on is around anti-discrimination policy. They're working on looking at their hiring policies, also making sure that their human resource systems is upgraded, and that what they call diversity and equity inclusion training is something that's a pillar of the work that they do. So this is some piece of work that we've engaged in collaborations with Daniels, and we hope to report what they call how these systems and changes continue in our work. So those are some of the updates we wanted to share with you in terms of what RPNA has been up to and what RPNA is currently doing. So I'm gonna invite Marlene to start us off with the next piece, Q&A.
Right. So if you have any, that is basically our report for this evening. So we'd like to invite you to ask questions or clarifications regarding anything you've heard this evening. Anyone?
Oh, Calvin has his hand up.
Yeah, so I heard that a hate crime had occurred at Daniel East. I just want to know what was the context of the hate crime, and what way was it a hate crime? Was it like an assault, or was it like somebody heckling? Was it a worker that was being racist? And I was researching this on the internet. I saw most articles from 2020. When did this happen, and things like that? And how can I look out for, hate or any kind of way that, any kind of subliminal discrimination?
Yes, this was sort of an incident that had happened, in terms of development sites across the city of Toronto, where nooses were brought up into the construction sites. And this had happened here in Regent Park, but it also had happened at other sites. And then I think when that incident happened, of course, we galvanized the Neighborhood Association, and we started conversations with Daniels around how to best respond. but also investigate the incident, but also take a look at what are ways we can fundamentally shape and change a culture of hate. Because an incident like that is sort of the touch point of the iceberg. There are much more fundamental pieces that needs to be worked out. So we started that work, and I think there was a report that Daniels had made in terms of how they're responding as an organization, but also how they're helping to facilitate conversation at larger in the development community. So that's an ongoing work. And if you're interested in being part of those conversations and how that happens, please volunteer and continue to work with us. And Daniels is more than happy to collaborate on this piece. If other members from the leadership team want to add on to this question.
Can I speak to this if you don't mind, Ismail? So just to respond to that, because I think we have to be very, we have to tell the whole story. So there were 4 nooses found on construction sites in the city of Toronto, right? And we're talking in 2019. A noose is a symbol of slavery and oppression. So one was found in the Dewey's building, 2 at Michael Garron Hospital, another at a downtown construction site. So, you know, in 2019, to have such a thing happen says that you're trying to send that you are sending a message to the Black community that we will oppress you and we will hurt you in any way that we can. Nooses this has been a culture in the construction industry across North America. It is just not in Canada. So yes, we've had great conversations and, you know, and a lot of progress or a lot of things that the Daniels Corporation, so thanks to them, have put into place. But there are lots more things that have been done. You know, I want to give a shout out to Soraya. She may not be on this call, but she was instrumental in bringing the community together, having conversations with Daniels and with other construction companies to really talk about what and why these things are happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail, for that context.
I think Andre wanted to say something. Go ahead, Andre, first. Andre, I'll go after you, Andre. Go ahead.
Oh, hello, everybody. Yes, I had something to say on a different matter. I don't know if you want to continue this conversation, Waleed.
Okay, let me just quickly mention one thing, then we can listen to the next matter. With regards to symbols of hate, nooses in our community, whether it's Regent Park or across the city, I think it's important for all of us to reject those symbols of hate, not through rhetoric, but through action. And what our neighborhood association has been successful in doing is pushing for the conversation to focus on action. So one of the things that we're hoping to do through the community benefits process is secure opportunities, good jobs for equity-seeking groups. So, you know, Black, Indigenous members of our community, right? Because they've been displaced. They've been displaced. We see it. The lack of jobs and opportunities are making it very difficult for folks to live in our community. And I don't want our neighborhood to be a neighborhood of just millionaires. So I think we have to be very, very intentional in making sure that we create opportunities for those that are systemically been basically, they've been systemically refused or completely ignored when it comes to accessing these opportunities. So I just want to point that out, that's a very important part of the work your neighborhood association is involved with. It's not just rhetoric, but action. Go ahead, Andre.
Yes, hello, everybody. My name is Andre Bermond. I just wanted to just introduce myself. I'm the current chair of the Corktown Residents and Business Association. So just the neighborhood to the south of you. I see some familiar faces here, Waleed and and Zahid, who was helping us out with some speeding issues on Shooter. He was a great help in that. I just want to say that I'm very pleased to see that the RPNA is now on a new footing and got itself reconnected and getting itself involved in some really important matters. And in terms of community policing, I would like to see if I can try and share something in the chat. I'm not sure if any RPNA members are aware, but there is a community group called the Cplc, Community Police Liaison Committee. I've been recently elected co-chair, and one of our mandates this year is to get more involvement from community members. So I highly recommend that the RPNA choose a representative, get them to sign up as a member so you can attend our monthly meetings. And it's just another forum for the community to reach the police. And I'll add additional information. There are neighborhood community officers that circulate in different neighborhoods. There's one for Regent Park. These officers are identified by those on the bicycle, so sometimes you might see them around. These officers are dedicated to certain areas of the downtown and kind of act as kind of mediators between the TPS and the community. And obviously they're performing their duties, but also they play a kind of community role. And the police have restarted these meetings. They're supposed to happen quarterly, but as often the case, they don't do anything until you push them. So we've been pushing them for a while to restart these community meetings, and they have. And there's one for Regent Park. I believe it's on the 8th. I'm going to see if I can share something in the chat very quickly. I don't mean to take up your time here. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. So 100% thank you for that recommendation. What do you call most of the neighborhood association, either members or volunteers are I think we've just connected with a member, a volunteer who's also part of that liaison police committee, and 100% grateful for that recommendation. Other questions or comments you wanted to make?
No, that's it. I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Awesome. And I think part of our workload we've put ourselves this year is also connecting with other neighborhood associations and BIAs so that we can amplify our voices together for a stronger city change. So thank you for that. I think, Miguel, you wanted to comment on this?
Oh, well, yes. Want to say one thing to in reply to Andrea. Thank you, Andrea, for bringing this up to our attention. We are aware of the CPLC 51 division, and we'll certainly will take this advice under consideration for participation in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. So the floor is open for questions, clarifications, or comments in terms of some of the updates you've heard. So we invite our attendees to, if you're curious about something you've heard, seen something, even around volunteering for the neighborhood association, please let us know.
To encourage discussion, I'm going to ask all my friends who are part of this amazing meeting, right? Maybe a check-in question. How about that, to make people feel comfortable? Okay. And that is, what have you learned about your neighborhood association so far? Has Ishmael Marlene done a good job articulating what we do? So who would like to go first? I don't want to point at Deborah and Jim, but go ahead, Deborah. You want to unmute yourself? Go ahead.
I've found it very helpful to hear from Ishmael and the rest of you. We don't currently live in Regent Park, although we were at the sumac for 2 years and became involved in the community then, and remain involved through the Christian Resource Center at 40 Oak, even though we're not physically in the community. We're very, we feel like part of the community.
Yeah, I remember working, meeting you and working with you, Ishmael, when Kevin Moore was still community minister, and I'm still on the board of that committee. We're in the process of hiring a new community minister that would, and we wish that they would have been on tonight to hear what kind of connections they can have to look forward to with the Regent Park Neighborhood Association.
No, I definitely remember you and the most fondest memories with Kevin. And I think the most beautiful part of revitalization is that Regent Park is connected to the city of Toronto. And I think you've tremendously helped in that regard of building cohesion and opening up this neighborhood for greater collaboration. So I'm excited to see you here. So anyone else want to comment? Also, we're interested in also hearing community issues in terms of, as RPNA is all about advocacy and community building. And we're always interested in hearing community challenges and community issues that need tackling. So if you have concerns, you've seen some topical issues that you'd like addressed in collaboration with other neighborhoods or even within this neighborhood, this is an opportunity also for you to raise those ideas and comments. We have about 12 minutes for this opportunity for you. I see Stanislav. Go ahead.
There. I just wanted to say thank you very much. I'm a new youth outreach worker working at Central Neighborhood House, which is rebranding itself as the Neighborhood Group. I think that's the name. Anyway, so I want to say thank you for making a newcomer feel so welcome. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to getting more involved with the community and figuring out how I can help young folks all in the downtown east. So thank you.
Well, that's wonderful.
My goodness, when I hear youth outreach worker is one of those precious roles that we have in this neighborhood. You'll be mostly welcome to work with us, and also in the social development plan. And I think it's nice to meet you here because I think you do some of the most remarkable work in terms of safety, in terms of young people, and it's good to connect with you.
Well, thanks very much. I'm looking forward to making more connections.
You living in the neighborhood, Stanislav?
No, I'm not. I live out by like St. Clair West Station.
Oh my God.
Snowstorms are fun. That's all I'm saying. Snowstorms are fun.
It's commitment. That's commitment. Well, welcome. Are there topics that you'd like us to talk about in these meetings coming up? You think of anything that you think needs discussing? We'd like you to think about that as time goes by, things that we should be talking about. We are an advocacy organization, primarily. It's advocacy that we do. So what should we be advocating for primarily?
Welcome, Michael. I think that was him joining.
Is that you, Michael?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, Michael.
Yes.
We're asking folks, what should we be advocating for? I know you care about community governed space, Michael.
Well, yeah, right now I'm trying to get have them include a center like the 519 as the form of community space that we're going to hopefully get.
I see a thumbs up from Jim when you said that. Good
What
stuff.
would you see as its primary purpose, Michael?
What?
What would you see as its primary purpose?
Like to keep like an open process where like you're not going to some sort of board that's elected by like a very like controlled or staff-driven process within an NGO. So it's like it just provides for a much more open and like conflict-free process to run the space.
I know that's running the space, but how do you see it being used primarily?
I think that the community controlled part of the space is for organizations and people that are running like irregular programs where they're not going to be given a permanent space.
Right.
So they would only have a way of getting a space if there was some space that they could book.
Good recommendation. Anyone else wants to speak?
Yep.
I'm just wondering, do we support, like I know there was a youth outreach worker, just for individuals in this community and surrounding areas, whether it's, racialized youth or just all youth, in terms of like mental health supports, support with healthy relationships. I know that sometimes access to like private mental health counseling is sometimes a barrier, depending on if many individuals in the community have access to, benefits through their workplace. And so what can we do to actually provide those supports? Because as we know, mental health also impacts your physical health as well as a community, right? And I know there's such a stigma, a huge stigma with accessing mental health supports, but how can we work to cultivate and shore up resources for those that are often pushed to the margins of our society and may not have funding to access private counseling?
Fola, that's an amazing question. As an advocacy organization, we don't provide services related to mental health, but we advocate for organizations to provide those supports. And what you mentioned was so important. Culturally appropriate mental health supports, supports for Black and Indigenous members of our community, BIPOC members of the community. When you look at the medical community and when you look at the therapists, they're not diverse. They're not diverse. They're not diverse at all. So how can people access those services? How can those folks better appreciate the mental health resources that exist in our community? And I'm actually excited to talk about a group that's based in Regent Park, that's youth-led, that's focused on mental health. Have you folks heard of WANSA?
No.
Harris, Adam, my friends at Healing Us One, do you folks know about WANSA? Could you speak to that?
What's the spelling of it?
WANSA, WANSAH. And it started recently, just got funding from the United Way and a bunch of other funders to start conversations in our community with regards to mental health. So they're profiling members of the community that are trusted so that they could start those conversations, but the need for mental health supports for members of our community that are not comfortable accessing, resources that they may not even, be, familiar with, right? It's not because it's not culturally appropriate is very problematic. So I really want to thank you, Fola, for raising that point. And I think from an advocacy point of view, that's something we should focus on. So thank you.
And I wanted to also, maybe Stanislav wants to add on this as well. So there's an approach we're trying to do in this neighborhood. It's what's called the network approach. Not a single grassroots group or organization is able to problem solve all the critical issues. And I think the solution is always through collaboration and networks. Right now, we're part of such a network called the Social Development Plan, and we have all the key players in the neighborhood at that table. We have organizations that deal with all the different things on safety, on employment, on communication, on mental health. And what we do is through a collaboration table where everybody's at the table, we try to identify what are the current resources that are in the neighborhood, what are the gaps, and what can we do together to bring those opportunities and funding when there are gaps. And what this means is this network is also connected to what's called the Executive Directors Network. All the organizations in this neighborhood that are delivering services also is connected with us. So, and I think that's why we also have our city councilor and different levels of government engaged as well. So I think those questions are the critical questions we need to ask. What are we missing? What are needed? And then to have a collaborative solution to these pieces, because I think what you'll find is that you can't solve it at one level. And that's why collaboration has to happen on almost every level. And I think Stanislav, you can add to this piece, and we'll need to move on the next agenda item as well.
Sure, I'll try to be pretty quick about it. So part of my role is trying to help youth with service navigation, which is kind of exactly what you described, helping kind of connect the need with appropriate services. I'm coming to it sort of, I started out working with youth. I worked in the adult sector about 15 years. So just from accessing counseling directly, there's medical counseling, which has sort of a couple of options. There's also more social work oriented counseling, and that's usually phrased as case management. So for folks that are needing support kind of in a hurry, in a more direct way, any kind of nonprofit service provider that offers case management would at the very least be able to offer a link to mental health supports. Now, those can be supportive counseling, those can be more for complex needs, those can be short-term or long-term, it really depends. But even though I'm working with youth, I mean, if I can answer a few questions, I mean, I'm happy to do that in the chat if that's helpful.
Awesome. So I think, thank you, everyone. Please do connect with us in terms of some of the key issues you identify in the community, some of the key concerns. We would, as Marlene and everyone has said, we are at the heart an advocacy resident-led organization. So we need to be able to hear some of the critical issues. On our next topic, I'd like to invite Waleed to introduce our next agenda items. Waleed, go ahead.
Thank you, Ishmael. So welcome to Black History Month. It's February of 2022. And our goal today is to not just commemorate Black History Month, but also reflect on what Black History Month means. Reflect on the experiences of Black, Indigenous, and other members of our community that continue to face systemic barriers when it comes to accessing opportunities. But we want to also have a conversation about what allyship means to all of us. So before we get started into this very important conversation, I want to introduce Desania Francis Smith. She's known as Spoken by T. That's her performance, that's her name. She's not just a spoken word artist and performer, but she's also a facilitator, storyteller, creative director, and an aspiring film director. So Desania, also known as T, wears many creative hats, which I spoke about, but she also uses the art of words and poetry to explore her emotions and understand the world around her. So she grew up in Mississauga, where she found her home on stage and has performed on over 54 stages and in front of more than 7,000 people thus far. So she's amazing. And what we're gonna do next is I'm gonna share her performance. So please help me welcome Desania.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who has me involved in this. Thank you, Waleed, for putting this together. Every single organization that is part of this, I think that y'all are doing great things. I am grateful to be part of this. As you can tell, this is pre-recorded, so I am doing this a couple days in advance. But I'm just saying my thank yous to having, to everyone who put this together, and just to making sure that this is a conversation that's being had, especially during the pandemic, especially in Indigenous communities, in colored communities, Black communities, because I feel like mental health, it's still very stigmatized. Us dealing with our identities and dealing with who we are as people, and then just like external issues and stuff. It's definitely a conversation that needs to be had a little bit more. So I am grateful to be part of this. I am thankful to be part of this. And yeah, my name is T. I should have said that at the beginning. My name is T. I'm a poet. My Instagram is Spoken by T. I've been doing this a couple years.
My name is Waleed Kogali Ali.
Okay, thank you. I am grateful to be part of this. As you can tell, this is pre-recorded, so I am doing this a couple days in advance. But I'm just saying my thank yous to having, to everyone who put this together, and just to making sure that this is a conversation that's being had, especially during the pandemic, especially in Indigenous communities, in colored communities, Black communities, because I feel like mental health, it's still very stigmatized. Us dealing with our identities and dealing with who we are as people, and then just like external issues and stuff. It's definitely a conversation that needs to be had a little bit more. So I am grateful to be part of this. I am thankful to be part of this. And yeah, my name is T. I should have said that at the beginning. My name is T. I'm a poet. My Instagram is Spoken by T. I've been doing this a couple years, more than a couple years, but I am here and I am going to perform something called Then I Was Black. It's basically me talking about me kind of figuring out my identity as a biracial female, and just kind of what it's felt like over the years. So yeah, I'm just gonna go straight into it. This is me in my humble home right at my desk. I got my little body mic here, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. Yeah, so. Okay. Then I was Black. Now I'm mixed. But to some, I'm not worthy of a colored skin twist because I'm lighter than some. Hair textured differently, loose curls flows elegantly, nicely over my cheekbones, princessy vibes, eliminating me from connected culture ties, because this look, this shade, this hair, and this place makes me not one of the some that are marginalized, but because my parents kissed, I now deserve to be dissed by kind that is like me. You see, because I'm not dark enough to be pulled over at first glance. Hands up, wide in stance, I am Caucasian or ethnic without any chance to prove my ethnicity. The hypocrisy sent towards me, kind that only knows suppression shouldn't suppress one of them. Half of them. Excluded from a group I feel for intensely. Eliminated from a group not with voices, but I see, I spy, she's not as dark as me. I see, who's this Black girl wannabe? Want to see what it's like to be stuck in the middle? Misunderstood by those that should understand you. Learn to understand you, but they don't even learn to understand me, thinking ignoring the difference will eliminate the difference, glazing over elephants, permanent resident in my household. Minimal explanation may lead to complications, but will solidify the simple adaptations now. It was never spoken about until now. It's still not even spoken about even now, but it's like they say, if you pretend it's not there, eventually never be there, right? If I close my eyes, you can't see me, right? If you open your eyes, you won't see me, just fright of misplacement, understatement. I mean, I'm targeted with raised eyebrows after a fresh braid up. While there are people in beauty pageants trying to look like me without even trying to learn about my history, they can wash off the spray paint, go back to their own homes. Their tone is their map, always leading them to go, but they will never know the feeling of displacement in their own home. Own streets. Own school, no seat, heads turn, question asked, what's your background? Think fast. Be short and sweet, expect follow-ups. What's this mean? But your hair. It's not fair, constantly justifying my genetics. There was no modification, it's pathetic. I look ethnic, yeah, okay. Tell me something I don't know about your day. Ask about mine. I've got more to say. You want me for my words, not my face, not my light skin privileges, what they want to call it, not my long hair. Shouldn't care when the rest want to question it, when the rest want to express their jealousness, use it as leverage to limit my blackness. Like, yeah, okay, I get it. I don't know the nappy hair development from 3-hour naps, but I do know displacement, uncomfortable replacement, because now I'm light skinned. 70 years ago, I was forbidden. Now I'm apparently the next hottest thing. I was just going to end the video, but I realized that I still have to say my thanks. So thank you again. Thank you for doing this. That was that. It's a fairly old piece. It's something that it's harder to talk about. Just be battling between my white side, my black side, all this stuff, trying to figure out where I fall, you know. So it's still something I'm definitely trying to figure out how to talk about, but I appreciate everyone involved in this project, everyone involved in this event who is giving me the space to do that and giving the space to a lot of other people to talk about these kind of things. So thank you. I appreciate it. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of the event. Well, that's it for me.
Wasn't she awesome? Dini is still reflecting. That's awesome. So that was spoken by T, delivering a very powerful spoken word piece on her lived experiences, being biracial, and speaking about the intersection of being both Black and white, and very thought-provoking piece. So thank you so much. So now, my friends, I want to introduce our special guest speaker, Joy Henderson, Regent Park's own Joy Henderson. Joy Henderson is an Afro-Indigenous child and youth care practitioner, writer, and community activist. She grew up in Regent Park, having started her writing career at Catch the Flavor, and relocated to Scarborough in her early 20s, where she currently resides. Thank you, Joy. Thank you for blessing us with your wisdom. You are truly a community gem. So please take it away, my sister. Thank you.
Wow, thank you for that intro, man. I'm feeling pretty big on myself. So thank you for having me. It is such an honor. I am doing several events for Black History Month during this month, and there's 2 events that have honored me deeply, one being this month, the other this evening, the other being an event where I get to speak to young people. And you know, as a child and youth care practitioner, that is always going to be near and dear to my heart because the little ones, yay. So anyhow, I am here to speak about allyship. And so I don't know, can I share the screen or?
Yeah, so Joy, both options are available. I can share it from my end, or you can share it from your end.
Oh,
whatever you like.
Cannot share it. I'm trying to, but saying
Okay,
no.
here,
But
we're
if
gonna
you
make
want to, that's fine. I'm good either way.
Joy, here, we'll make you your co-host right now. One second.
Okay. I promise I won't run away with the meeting. Well, I will hope that one of y'all will keep me in time. Time is not my best.
We will make sure you're good. There you go.
Oh, there I think, yes, yay. Okay, so please don't judge. I have a lot of, what do you call it? Sorry, a lot of tabs. And so I don't know if someone could keep an eye on a chat for me, just because I can't see chat and screen. That would be lovely. Thank you so much. And so as well, had kindly mentioned, I am a former Regent Park resident. I grew up in Regent Park from the time I was itty bitty until my early 20s. My mother still lives, she lives on the Oak Street Co-op. Her name is Betty Hubbard. Some of y'all know her. I grew up in 15 Belshaw. I grew up one floor above Dini. We know each other well. She saw me grow up. She probably smacked me in the halls a few times just because I'm causing trouble. I am also a child and youth care practitioner. I teach at Humber College, and that is a new development. I write. Again, I started at Catch the Flava. I remember just growing up in Regent Park and saying my piece and just being really angry about it and being chased down by, this worker. And, he was tall and he had long dreads and his name was Adonis and he's still there. And he made me write. And I wrote about actually the CPLC. And so I kind of chuckled when the gentleman came on advertising about it because it wasn't a popular article by the CPLC. And I remember being dragged into the basement of 51 Division and being yelled at by a bunch of CPLC members and, then our staff inspector, Bill Blair, who is now, as you know, a minister of something or other in Canada. I can't quite remember what he does. And so I talk a lot on Twitter and I work a lot in equity. And so why do I do the work that I do? Because I grew up in Regent Park. And so because I grew up in a community of aunties and mothers and grannies who just, had to fight so hard for us to just be heard. Our community, and I'm sure there's many similarities then and now, very highly stigmatized, largely racialized. Back in the day, it was Black, white, and Indigenous. And then as I grew older, we got to see, different migrations come through. And so we got to see a lot more of, our Somali kin move into, Regent Park with, just the influx of events going around the world. And so, and by the time, I eventually did move out. And so I haven't gotten to see the last 20 years of Regent Park's development, except that I tend to get lost nowadays when I come downtown and I need a guide, but I kind of situate myself at the soccer pitch because I'm also a soccer mom, which I did not mention in the profile. So I'm here to kind of guide you through, or hopefully guide you through a discussion about allyship and why it's important, particularly as you now live in a very mixed income community with varying levels of privilege. And even within a single kind of income community, there's still that level of privilege, but how to work together. And I was really heartened to kind of see all of you all come together and just treat each other and hold each other kindly. I love the land acknowledgement, which also really just held space for everyone who has been involved with displacement, because often we don't consider, and particularly in Black History Month, we don't consider Black people as part of people who have suffered under colonialism. We separate it by non-Black, Indigenous people and Black people. And I don't like to do that because with the transatlantic slave trade and with, like, say, displacement, even nowadays, forced displacement of Black peoples, it's a colonial thing that's still happening to many people and not just, and it's happening within Canada, right? And so, so I was really heartened by all that's been, said and done so far. And I feel like, okay, people are on the right track already. This is good, right? And so I wanted to kind of start by opening up a small discussion. And so I'm going to kind of keep track of time, but if I'm going too long, please feel the need to say, yo, Joy, hurry up, please. So, but what is an ally? And I'd like to hear from all of y'all what you think an ally is. And I might volunteer some of y'all, but is anyone brave enough to take the first step, whether in chat or raising your hand? Does anyone want to take a stab at it?
A friend.
Yes. A friend. I love that. Yes. And that's so important to kind of ground ourselves, because allyship has to begin in love and justice, right? And so how you would treat a friend, is very important, right? And how you would view allyship, because otherwise you're going to be getting into dynamics where there's still power, where allyship is you're trying to minimize the power differential. Anyone else? It's going to be a really short presentation otherwise. So would love to hear from other people. Miguel, do you have any thoughts? Don't leave me hanging, man.
Stanley Sav said in the chat, someone to walk beside in a struggle.
Ooh, I like that. Thank you.
And Dini has her hand raised.
Oh, thank you. Dini, go for it.
Yeah, you know, this is always a question. I'm just going to put my question in your question.
Uh-oh.
I've always asked, how am I supposed to be an ally to myself?
Ooh, you're just going to stump me tonight. That is a good question, right? And so, and part of that is, you know, I'm going to make room for Sarah Jane in a minute. And so, but yeah, part of it is like, how do you be an ally to yourself? Because again, this work that we do, community work, it tears a strip out of you, right? Because you do face a lot of harm from outside organizations. And so, and it just takes a large emotional toll when like stuff like community violence happens, or you're just dealing with the ongoing, like, you know, barriers that communities can face, such as Regent Park. And so part of allyship to yourself, I think, is also just kind of, you know, developing your boundaries, respecting them. Like I know like people go hard, especially if they work like in the community and we can't say no, right? And we're like at meetings, like one after another. So being able to say no, you're listening to your body, saying no, listening to, you know, just how you're feeling in a situation. If someone's mistreating you and you're like, no, right? There's part of that. And also just, you know, what am I going to say? I just lost my train of thought. But I think largely it's about boundaries and respecting yourself. And that is so important to kind of move forward. And so I hope I will touch on that a bit more as we go along. Sarah Jane, I see your hand up and I try to make room for everyone. It's going to be tight, but we'll see what we can do. Sarah Jane, you're on mute. Sorry.
Oh, I'm not on mute. Am I
Oh,
on?
there you are. I hear you. Sort of. Yep.
I think an ally is more than a friend, because an ally, like an alliance, and you've talked about work many, many times now in the last few sentences. An alliance is a comrade in a struggle. And it's very hard to take on someone else's struggle and to know it completely. And there's a lot of difficulty in making yourself, you can't understand the Black struggle if you're not Black, but you can be an ally in it. You can form an alliance in it. And it's difficult because you're white and white privilege and whatever. So, but it's more than a friend. It has to be someone marching with you.
I like it. And we will get into that. And so, because, you know, friendship is the basis, but there's certainly absolutely work to be done. And I do have slides on that too. Yay. I see TK Podcast. I don't know your name, sorry, but I like TK Podcast.
Thank you. It's Calvin.
Calvin, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the part where you talked about, you know, when you're being a community worker or a community service person, it's very hard because you can't say no, but anybody who's willing is brave. And I like that because that shows that you're working, yes, but you're also working with, you know, realness and various other characteristics that make me appeal more to a worker. And that's what I appreciate.
That's a great thought. Thank you for that reflection. And yeah, it's heart work, right? Like when you do this kind of work, it is coming from the heart. And it's so important to keep it real, be genuine. And again, it's hard to have boundaries when you're doing that because you're forming relationships with people, right? And so, but there's also that means where you also have that burnout that you have to kind of balance. And we're all just burnt out as of the last 2 years. I feel like we're constantly running on empty, but we keep going, right? So it's about also, you know, taking care of yourself too.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I've experienced that burnout before, so it's not fun. I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm like out in the community that much, but I've been attending meetings a lot, and or I've been attending meetings pretty often, and I am also a part of, you know, TCHC community animator and things like that. So I definitely relate to what you're feeling, especially when you lose like a fellow worker to, you know, violence or harm. It's hard. So yeah, I understand.
For sure. And so, I mean, this is the thing, you have community workers, but anyone who's working in the community, whether they're formally educated or not, are community workers, right? And so your lived experience is lived expertise, right? And so unfortunately, people don't get paid for that, but I want to value that as incredible work for which anyone who is coming into the community as like a formal community worker could not do. There's no way ever. Miguel, I see your hand up. You're not leaving me hanging.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was listening to my message. Sorry. What I like to say about being an ally is sometimes I feel like you have to come out of your comfort zone and become a true friend to someone who is struggling and faces adversity by, let's say, the violence that is done against them by police forces and other forces of oppression. Sometimes allies require our support when Indigenous and Black women and men are in need of help, and to protect them also, to become a shield when they are being targeted by these law enforcement agencies. That is my opinion after 12 years in advocating and standing in solidarity with activists all around. Thank you.
Amazing opinion. Thank you so much for sharing. And as one we hold, very similar. I'm going to move to Waleed, and then I'm going to move on because y'all are giving away my presentation because you're just like, beating me to the punch.
Joy. I just want to quickly mention that Lachlan in the chat mentioned someone committed to learning and following the lead of those with lived experiences. That is such a wise definition of allyship. So thank you, Lachlan, for sharing that in the chat.
Thank you, Lachlan. Thank you, Waleed, for just keeping an eye on that chat for me, because I don't do multitasking well, despite being a parent. And I agree, Lachlan, this is like a key, like it's a foundation stone to allyship. Like you cannot build that house of allyship without, that willingness to learn and decenter yourself, right? And so just briefly, this is a very, very brief explanation because I can get into it for days, right? And so allies are typically people who are in a group that possess structural and systemic power, examples such as race, sex, gender, class, disability, sexual orientation, etc. There are also people who then leverage that power in order to address that structural and systemic inequity. And so please let me know if I'm going too fast. I tend to speak fast when I'm, nervous or, and structural and systemic power is a process set up in society that makes a particular group processes, ideologies, rules, politically, socially, the default. So what that means, because that's a whole bunch of fancy gobbledygook about it. And so it means in Canada and Western states, we are governed by a Judeo-Christian, cis, white, male, heterosexual, able-bodied framework. And this has determined our laws, beliefs, social practices, educational practices, work schedules, what we consider manners, our media, what we eat, when we eat, how we eat, what is professional, what we consider lazy, how we view poverty, how we dress. And I was going to give a couple of examples just to because I want to just hear other people's thoughts around that, but I was going to give a couple of examples, right? And so when we think about lazy, right, we think about, oh, that person, hasn't accomplished 20 things by 10 a.m., right? And so, but then we start looking at frameworks. Who dictates that we have to accomplish things by 10 a.m.? Does this respect the schedule of, say, a disabled person who might take longer to get going in the morning? Does this respect the schedule of a teenager whose circadian rhythm is way off that 10 a.m. schedule, right? When we think about lazy, our media, up until, and you still see tropes of it, right? But you see in the media I grew up with, when I see Tom and Jerry and such, laziness was depicted as Blackness, right? And so the lazy guy sitting in the sun with the watermelon, just just doing and shucking and jiving and all that weird stuff, right? And so, and it was, laziness was depicted with Blackness, and it is even still today, right? We still have tropes of, you know, the welfare queen, right? And so, and I certainly grew up with that trope, right? And so those who are low income. Another kind of framework, you know, even just what we eat, I learned, you know, and I'm fixated on this, right? And so a few days ago, I learned that Canada tried to ban the use of patty for Jamaican patties because they wanted it to be a hamburger patty. A beef patty had to be a hamburger patty. We couldn't even use the word.
Ridiculous.
I grew up on patties, right? We all know it as patties, but you know, in the 80s, the Canadian government and beef farmers were like, nah, this is ours. It cannot belong to the Jamaicans. We're fighting over terms of food. And so even how we dress, right? Like, you know, locks aren't considered professional, right? You know, how we dress in clubs, you can't wear certain clothes, right? Students, TDSB got rid of its dress code, thank goodness. But for, you know, when I was growing up, there were certain ways we couldn't dress because it was deemed too urban, right? Which is code for too Black, right?
Mhm.
And so I was just wondering if anyone else had some examples that came to mind, or, I mean, I'm happy to move on, but people are like, you know, our reactions, examples, rants, raves. I can't see hands, so, but if no one's going,
I can probably start something off if you want, Joy.
For sure.
I'm gonna ask everyone who's part of this community meeting what their thoughts are of, you know, what's recently happened, you know, with regards to the caravan protests and the critique that it went on, you know, for 21 days. Well, if it was a Black or Indigenous led, the violence that could have been inflicted on the protesters will have been way much more severe. And even now with the Canada Emergency Act, so the new Emergency Act, Black people are not given any leeway to protest in that act, right? So those are structural. When we talk about laws, when we talk about governments having the monopoly of the use of violence, what sort of impact does that have on all of us?
I mean, for sure.
That was the first thing I thought. Why aren't the police moving in on this freedom convoy? I said, I remember, was it Vancouver? And the economic protests there, the protests against poverty and Wall Street, I said, they moved in right away.
Yeah. Yep.
Aging myself, but I remember the Oka crisis, right? They move in right away. So Ipperwash, I can name a few places, but yeah, 21 days. And it didn't surprise me. Once you hit the money, i.e. the Ambassador Bridge, factories being affected, money being lost, that's when they did something. But yeah, Ottawa, Parliament Hill, yeah, we don't have to go work for a few days. That's okay. But no, you're going to slow down the economy? Hells no.
Preach. Preach.
To switch it to the stage just for a moment, being Black History Month and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, what people don't realize, the reason he was shot is because he started talking about poor people of all races, all creeds, all colors, working together and impacting the economic inequality. That's when he was shot. Not when he had a dream, but when he started talking about the money, honey. But
It's very interesting to kind of trace that event, right? And just to see how, once they really started to get scared, once he started branching out about poverty and about like war and, just like, he's like, okay, yeah, you can free the blacks, but you can't free everyone else because then we have a real problem, right? And it kind of links back to, and this goes way back. This goes back to 1526. When Black and Indigenous people staged the first slave revolt in the US in South Carolina. And then from then on, they realized we cannot have these groups working together. But I'm getting away from myself, but I love this point. I will talk about it all night if I don't restrict myself. Sorry, Calvin, go ahead.
Finally, somebody had said it. That is when he was shot. Because I saw the interview. You know what the comment said is one of the realest things I've ever heard. Even though it was a meme, they said they didn't kill Dr. King because he had a dream. They killed Dr. King because he woke up. It is always the money. It is always the money. And the saddest part is, right, money makes up more occupation, or I could say money has more existence than actual human beings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it's easy for them to say, okay, right, we're going to satisfy this population, but if you try to satisfy everybody, now we're going to have to give out the money to the poor. We're not going to have to do that, right? He started talking about the money. He aimed for the money. And that's when they said, you know what? It's time to take him away, right? And who knows if it's the person that they caught him, like was it James Earl Ray? Mm-hmm. Who knows if it's actually him that was the one that did it? Like it's all these things. That's how you can really spark like tension or make people uncomfortable, especially people who are greedy with their money, right? Especially those in power, is that you talk about the money and the way it can be distributed and how it can help everybody. It will get them especially on edge and very uneasy, which, I mean, I don't know why, because I feel like I'll take saving a life over money, to be honest.
Yeah. So for sure, I can get into this all night and I would love to. So I'm going to, because again, it's the money, right? And it's why allyship, and this is what Dr. Martin Luther King did so well, right? Think about it. It was 60, 70 years ago. I can't do math. I apologize, right? But think about the massive amount of inspiration it took to build allyship back then in the States, right? And so I'm going to draw it back into allyship, right? And so I'm kind of impressed by how I did that. But yeah, and that's what scares people, right? Because once people start collaborating, then the powers that be start getting worried. And so, I'm not here to traumatize Black people or talk about Black trauma too much, but, it is Black History Month. And I just kind of want to frame why, allyship is so important in Black communities and just kind of what it looks like to kind of ground ourselves as to like how bad it actually is, right? And so I don't know, can we just do a show of hands? How many people were aware that slavery existed in Canada? Like, I did not know this until I was 30. I was in my 30s and I remember reading Natasha Henry and I was blown away. I was like, oh my God, how did I not know this? I grew up in Canada. I went to Park Public School, Nelson Mandela Park Public School. I did not know this. How many people understand? I mean, here's the thing, right? So once slavery ended in Canada, and sorry, Judith, I will get to you. Just let me finish this point. Okie doke. And so, unless that's just a hand that you've raised, but once slavery ended in Canada and the US, basically what happened was that the rich powers that be realized that, oh my God, we do not have a free economic engine to build our economy off of. And what rised out of that, again, was policing and prisons. Because once you put people in prison, and certainly back then, it was a free workforce to build the roads, to build the railroads, to build the infrastructure that they still needed, to work on farms, right? And so this is why I'll always be a prison police abolitionist on my own end, just because I believe it's directly linked to slavery and is an evolved version of slavery. In Canada, it kind of took a little bit more of a side sideways version too, to help dispossess Indigenous peoples of their lands in Canada. And so because they wanted the land so they can build the railroads, the roads, the means to move product to build farms, right? And so the RCMP was created to dispossess Indigenous people of their lands. And are you aware that in Toronto, Black people are 20 times more likely to be killed by police than a non-Black person? This is a new finding by the Ontario Human Rights Commission. I don't know, I'm at the end of the slide, so Calvin and, sorry, Judith, did you have comments or can I continue on? Up to you, up to y'all.
Continue, I'm just agreeing with you.
Oh,
I learned
beautiful.
about slavery in Canada when I dropped out of high school and went back to high school. And when I went back to high school, I went to an alternative schools, and that's where I learned about it. Not when I was just first going through, when I was older.
Yep, right. I learned it on the internet, on Twitter. That's where I learned half my stuff, honestly. And it's great. I love Twitter as a source, right? And so again, I focus a lot in education and racism within education. So, you know, in Canadian schools, and I saw this certainly when I was growing up, Black children are more likely to be suspended, put into behavioral programs, arrested at schools for acting out. We have a case that just happened, that just came to light today in Waterloo Region Catholic School Board, and they put a 4-year-old Black boy in handcuffs. Like, he's a toddler, right? Like, what 4-year-old needs handcuffs? I know, you know, anyone who's like raised children, been around children, there's no way we put a 4-year-old in handcuffs, no matter how bad they're acting out. But this is the thing. Black children are criminalized in schools for behaviors that non-Black children are not, right? And so the school board had said that he is a big boy and immature to justify this. I'm like, are you kidding me? As a child and youth care practitioner, that is appalling. My job is to literally deal with young people who are reacting to schools, right? And to schools that are unfriendly to them, that are making them sit still for several hours. And of course, they're acting out because they're 4, right? So, and again, and this next point speaks to more of the systemic nature that Black children are more likely to be streamed into applied learning streams versus academic.
Exactly.
Right. And so and I remember growing up in Regent Park, you know, we were all supposed to go to Castle Frank, which was considered the Regent school. Right. And so maybe Eastdale, which was the Regent school, which had the basic and general, and which I guess is the applied streams now. I'm showing my age, right? And so we were not thought to succeed, and Black children are routinely put into these streams. So because they're thought not to succeed. What does this mean? This means that Black children aren't necessarily getting into the college and university programs that we need. And Waleed, when you talked about representation in healthcare, you know, young people who have, you know, these applied streams cannot get into med school, and we do not have that representation that we sorely need, you know, to better facilitate our healthcare, which brings me to my next slide, right? And it's about healthcare, right? And the systemic violence healthcare visits upon Black people, whether it's, you know, we're disabled, whether we're trans, just even if we don't have any of those intersecting identities, med schools are still teaching that Black patients do not experience as much pain as non-Black patients. What is that? Black women are at a higher rate of dying in childbirth. Because why? Because they're Black and people don't listen. Serena Williams, she had her baby and she said, something is wrong. I have this issue. And the physicians didn't listen to her. She almost died, right? And so I'm like looking at my time. Oh my goodness, I need to keep moving. So we're going into allyship in Black communities, right? And so we have to understand that Black is not a monolith. Blackness is shaped by our nationalities, our ethnicities, where we grew up, how we grew up, you know, our religion, our culture, right? My Blackness is not the same as someone else's Blackness. I am Afro-Indigenous, my dad was Black American. I am not the same as an Afro-Indigenous person from Nova Scotia who might be Mi'kmaq, right? And so, because I'm also Lakota, right? My Blackness is not viewed the same as someone who is Muslim from Sudan, right? And so it's just, we're treated differently based on these intersecting identities, right? And so again, that's related to migrant status, that's related to our religion, it's related to, again, where we grew up, how we speak, even the shades of our skin. I am fairly light-skinned, and so I will not be racialized the same way as a darker skin, Black kin is racialized. So why allyship? So allyship, when done right, comes from a deeply held conviction that we are living in a system that has oppression and injustice deeply embedded into its social fabric. Therefore, allyship cannot be conditional. Chances are when you do allyship, you're going to get into some hard conversations and your feelings are going to get hurt because you're going to be called on some things. But you have to understand that your feelings are not necessarily as big as the systemic issues that people are facing. And you're going to have to kind of say, okay, put it into perspective, right? I've caused harm, but that hurts. That makes me feel uncomfortable. But you know what? This person is dealing with some really horrible, police brutality right now. So I am not the center of this conversation. Allyship cannot come from a place of pity or saviorism. You're not here to save or fix the problems. You're here to leverage your societal power to aid others as they address the problem. So that can include your class. If you have more if you are seen as from a higher class because you have a higher income, therefore, you have that power to leverage those who may be low income. And this comes very relevant when you're talking about market and THC and how you can help each other out, right? This is what does good allyship look like for you. I am just doing a time check. I have 7:41. So does that mean I have 20 minutes left?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
beauty. All right. So this was meant to be a discussion, but I'm going to move this for last if we have time. And so because, there's so many great points and I hate to not talk about them. So how is allyship active? And many of you mentioned these points. So you're all we're skipping ahead, which was great because it's, it means that you're already there. It requires listening. It requires consent. As a child and youth worker, I do not move in unless I have the consent of that young person, right? If they trip, if they fall, can I help you, right? You have to kind of make that just part of your, default mode, right? Can I help? How can I help? Here are some skills that I think might be useful, but you tell me, no pressure. It requires the ability and willingness to endure uncomfortable conversations, right? And so, I remember when my mom was on the CPLC and, I'd go there and we just ask, why are you doing this? Why aren't you including Regent? And people were uncomfortable. They wanted to be allies, but they couldn't endure those conversations. And that was in itself a problem, right? So you have to also be willing to have those uncomfortable conversations with others and interrupt that harm and progress, right? So if you are at the CPLC and they're saying, well, we're going to do this in Regent Park, but they haven't spoken to anyone from, say, the RPNA or any other group in Regent Park, that person's job is to say, hang on a second, right? That's not happening because you haven't spoken to anyone in Regent Park. Nothing about us without us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I preach in Indigenous communities. And so it requires a lot of work to listen and understand the issues, how they affect people, and how you affect people, right? It's a lot of homework. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of, if reading's not your thing, there's YouTube, there's TikTok, there's even memes that you can glean wonderful information from, right? People are having podcasts and these kind of sessions all the time. I hope folks can take advantage of them just to kind of learn and build their allyship and build on that as it relates to specific communities. Internal allyship. This is the hardest one for a lot of people. It requires knowing when to be quiet and promoting other voices, also known as amplification. And so I work for an association, and it's the Ontario Association for Child and Youth Care. And, a lot of people are like, what are we going to do for Black History Month? I'm like, well, I'm going to tell you what I do on my social media platform, which is Twitter, is that, what we're going to do on that platform is that we're going to amplify Black voices, right? Because we are not an association that represents Black people. So we're going to talk that Black people, give them the spotlight, right? It requires careful and consistent self-reflection and review of language, thoughts, and actions, right? So it's just like, you go and you have a conversation with someone, they're like, you know what, that wasn't cool how you said that. You have to, sit and think about that. You have to say, well, why is that not okay, right? And you have to think about your own thought processes of why did I think it was okay to say that? It requires you to not center your feelings. This is so important. And a lot of people center their feelings. And I get it, it's hard work, but allyship is not about you, right? And so it's absolutely not. It requires vulnerability because you're going to misstep. It's just the sooner people, because everyone's always afraid, like, what if I say something wrong? What if I cause harm? Well, I'm like, just accept it as inevitable, right? It's going to happen, especially when you're working in diverse groups of people, right? I keep saying it's inevitable, but it is, right? Because you can't possibly know everything about everyone and what's not going to harm someone, right? And so you're going to misstep, you're going to have to be vulnerable. You're going to have to learn how to apologize and truly understand the level of harm you've caused. Ranya's Gamar's Anatomy of Apology is it's God-tier tool on how to frame an apology properly and to really think about how you apologize. A few tangible items about what allies can do. So first ask if you can help, then ask how. And allyship may be ordinary avenues for help: stuffing envelopes, babysitting, food prep, tear down, right? And we'll get more into that as we get out of COVID, fingers crossed, right? Allyship can be skills-based: graphic design, content creation, building infrastructure. It can be relational, providing space for debriefing, pain, joy, connecting with people, with influential people you know. If you have a connection that you can leverage to help another person, that can be allyship too. It can be creating space for people who don't have it, accessibility, ensuring everyone gets to speak, especially those who are quiet. If you notice there are people who are particularly quiet in a meeting, I've noticed you, Waleed, you're pulling people out, which is great, right? Just providing that space to say, hey, I didn't hear from you. Would you like to speak? No? Cool. Yes? Here you go. Here's the floor, right? So it's being intentional about who gets to speak, who has the floor. Can be a creation of safety, understanding who may be problematic in spaces and talking to them about it, and the ability to understand inherently what is problematic and why. So if we see like people coming in and taking up space and talking about like things that are maybe not related or things that are harmful, who's going to go in and talk to that person, say, hey, that's not cool, right? If someone is being racist, towards the Black community, who's going to step in? It shouldn't have to be the Black community if they have allies, right? And just remember, if you're Black or, to be an ally to a Black person, you don't have to necessarily just be white, right? People of color, other racialized people can be allies too. Allyship can be putting yourself in between systemic harm and someone experiencing it. I remember last year I was at X University helping to pull down a certain statue. My friend came, they were a white person, and we're like, okay, well, you're watching for police and security, and if they come, you're in charge. And they're like, got it, right? Because they knew that their position, as a male presenting white person, was a lot less threatening to police, and they were better able to de-escalate the situation than a bunch of Black and Indigenous people, right? Because the police would just see us and, start knocking heads, right? And keep in mind that a lot of the people who are the ones in need of allies will also do this work for themselves, right? And so again, just like what I described, a lot of us were Black and Indigenous and we were doing the work. right? But then, we had, white allies come in to kind of, to sort out different issues and help if the police did come. Let me just see. I'm going to go back up to a discussion question since we still have some time. Yay. I'm excited. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so what does good allyship look for you? So think about a time when someone stuck up for you, and I want you to consider, and if you're comfortable sharing, I would love to hear that, right? But did you feel like you had a voice? Did you feel like they took over? Do you feel like they were doing it for themselves or you? Did they do it with your consent? So I don't know, I can think of an example, or if someone else wants to go. I'd love to hear from you because I've been talking a long time. Bueller. Walid, are you good to go, or are you just unmuting?
I'm just blown away by what you said, because it's so tangible. And I just wish this was like, taught, or like, part of like best practices when it comes to organizations just better appreciating what allyship means. And from what I've heard from a lot of folks in the communities, there's always this like talk about allyship, right? But there isn't a real discussion on what allyship means to all of us, because what allyship means to you might be different from me, right? And I think having a common understanding is amazing. So I'm just wondering if folks have things to share about allyship and what they heard.
I'm trying to like remember, 20 years ago and draw from a Regent Park experience. If it's, we have Stanislav, go for it. And then after that, Dini. And then Ishmael. Yes.
Hi. So I mentioned I'm just a worker starting out in the neighborhood, but I'm a gay man, and that's so I've had the experience of having a pretty difficult experience working in shelters with having another staff kind of start making remarks, right? And those remarks escalated over time to the point where I got called a particular homophobic slur that starts with F at work. And at that point, I had not only another staff, but actually a couple of clients step up and say, "Oh no, you can't say that to him. No, you don't get to do that." And that was just such an amazing experience for me, because like the flip side of it, right? As a worker, you never expect to need allies, and you kind of build that wall up to say, "Oh no, I'm good. And then when somebody actually steps up, it's like, "Oh my God, this is the most wonderful feeling I have ever felt." So just, I want to share that as just, it really, it's not the same as racial injustice. But the feeling, my God, it helps.
It sure does. And I mean, like, we are running low on time, but like I could get into like what queer allyship looks like and for the queer community, because I'm also part of the queer community too. So it's just, it does include a lot more than just race. And so I'm going to move on to Dini, because I want to get on everyone's voice.
I'll be quick. I had a boss once who actually quit for both of us because the owner of the company told him to get that in the back.
Wow.
And he came to me and he said, Dini, we have just quit.
Oh my God.
My gosh. And it's like, I want to cry at these allyship, like these shows of solidarity. I'm like,
it's beautiful.
Right? And I have Ismail on next.
Oh yeah. So I think this one is, as you know, the neighborhood association's work is about creating social cohesion between what they call from 100 TCHC to what they call a mixed income community. And I remember at the time thinking whether this is going to work, whether market residents with Toronto Community Housing would work. And I remember one time we were in a community-wide meeting, and one market resident person got up and she was interrogating one of the developer members and asking them tough questions. And I was thinking, and I was paying attention, what is she, why is she so vehemently critiquing this person? And what's the issue? And she was talking about TCHC issues. And I'm like, oh my goodness, is that market person critiquing the developer about a TCHC issue? That's an ally. And I think that's how I sort of believed in this idea of social cohesion. And that person is Marlene, the co-chair of the Neighborhood Association. And I share the co-chair role with her in terms of this promise of a cohesive community. And I think that represented for me a good model of allyship, at a critical time. So I just wanted to share that.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. I'm sure Marlene's just like, hearts growing. But you're all y'all are in such a wonderful, unique position to show that kind of solidarity and allyship, right? And it's going to take a lot of allyship from market residents to ensure that, the TCH residents are well, represented, not speaking for them, but ensuring that their issues are heard. And so that kind of collaboration is amazing. I have Judith and Miguel, and then Gayle.
This was more stranger allyship. I was writing the TTC. I was tired. This is way before COVID, many moons ago. And a lady had her bag on the seat. It was the only seat available. So I asked her, would she mind picking up her bag so I can have a seat? She looked at me, looked at her bag, basically sucked her teeth and picked it up, right? So after a while, I can tell she's really upset, but I'm tired, I'm not getting up. And because I'm going all the way to Scarborough, I got on St. George. So I was getting off of Kennedy. I said, I'll get up whenever you need to go to your stop. So she says, well, she's getting off at Yonge Street. I said, that's fine. I'll get up as soon as you need your stop. At Bay, she starts to go in on me, calling me the N-word. And I'm in a state of shock. And I asked, when I'm about to get upset, I say, excuse me. Because I want to make sure I heard first before I get upset. So I said, excuse me, I didn't hear what you said. And so she repeats it. So to cut a long story short, I'm a dark-skinned Black woman. This is a light-skinned Black woman. My parents are of Jamaican descent. She was from Nova Scotia. And she turned to me and said, I don't know how she knew, because I didn't think I was speaking with a Jamaican accent at the time. But she said to me, you nowadays, West Indian N-word, come and think that you run the place when we've been here longer than you. And it's because of people like me and my family that Black people in general are treated that way, just because I asked her to move her bag because I wanted to sit down. So I said, excuse me, but before you call me anything, i.e. the N-word, you need to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror and realize they'll call both of us the same thing, right? Enjoy the rest of your day, go on your way. So when she got off, and this wasn't a quiet conversation, and when she got off and I'm sitting down and I'm just in a state of shock, white people, Indigenous people, South Asian people, everybody's coming up to me and asking me, strangers, because the woman I sat beside was a stranger. Are you okay? Are you okay? Oh my God, are you okay? I'm going, yeah, I'm okay. This is the first time in my life that I've been called the N-word, well, at least to my face that I know of. And for it to be a Black woman just hurt in an old, different kind of way. But at the same time, having that experience, a stranger, light-skinned Black woman saying that to me, to know that all these strangers on the subway train were all making sure that I was okay.
It's unbelievable.
Thank you for that. And that's like kind of a good example of like what happens afterwards and making space for debriefing, right? And, you know, I can imagine, you know, not necessarily knowing how to deal with the colorism issue with like, you know, because, you know, we sometimes say not all skin folk are kinfolk, right? And so, and just when we behave harmful to one another, and how do you frame that? In particular, how do other people frame it? They don't know what to make of it, but being able to check in afterwards, you know, can help too, right? And so, and just try and make space. I have Miguel, and then Gayle, and then Lizette.
Hi. Yes, as I mentioned earlier, the meaning of allyship sometimes put us in a position where we are motivated to get out of our comfort zone and speak up whenever there's incidents of violence towards members of our community. And that's what happened to me in 2012 when I was walking my dog and during in South Regent Park, and I noticed officers from Tavis at the time, and they were harassing teenagers. And I decided to start recording with my phone, and the police were trying to arrest me for recording them in their interaction with the youth. I stood my ground. 6 police cruisers came by. Everybody wanted to ask me, why are you doing this? Are you a parent of one of the children? I say, no, I'm just simply a man who finds difficult to understand why police officers will be harassing children. And I stood my ground, and they tried to remove my camera away from me, but I will not let them do it. And my video is on YouTube. So if anybody wants to see it, I have the video footage of my interaction with the police when I started being a bit more outspoken and more proactive by recording police interaction via video camera. Thank you.
Thank you. And just really, as we look, you know, throughout like, you know, the past 5 years, how many, you know, the power of a cell phone video camera, like it is, you know, I love these things because that accountability means so much, right? And it's given us so much power, you know, even though it's not better, but it's a step forward, right? And it has sparked so much discussion, so much movement that we desperately need, because now it's like, no, you can't say we were resisting, or, you know, we started it, that sort of nonsense that police like to say. I have Gayle and then Lizette.
Shoot. Hi there. So I think, you know, my experience in terms of allyship, I mean, I believe allyship is those who are in a position of power and can use that power. You know, the VP of the organization that I work for proposed that we work together, but she was tasked with creating an event for Black History Month. And I think what is for me, the allyship here is that she used her position of power and said, Gayle, let's do this together, because you're Black, I'm not. And if you are comfortable with, and I think that was the key piece, is that she first wanted to know, is she taking the right approach? You know, it's not a pressure situation, only if I'm comfortable doing this. And together we worked on what that event would look like. You know, it was, you know, a few meetings to understand what we wanted to do. But another additional piece in terms of allyship was, one, certainly using her power as a VP, and secondly, ensuring that she went out and learned about, you know, the topic that we were going to talk about, which was influential Black women in history. So I think that, and then, you know, we ended that discussion with what do we want the audience to take away from what we presented? How do we want them to then go forward and use this knowledge, right? So we kind of had some action items at the end, you know, where people got to engage in terms of what those actions should be. And then we ultimately, we shared that with the whole organization. So for me, that was absolutely allyship. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. You touched on like 3 of my favorite things. Consent. You mentioned that your boss, you know, was checking in to see if they were making work for you. Allyship should not mean work for the people you're, you know, being an ally to, right? And so, you know, so making sure that they're okay with that. And that requires a relationship too, right? And so I will go to the ends to earth if I have a good relationship with you and I believe you're acting in good faith. But if I don't, and I mean, if I have poor boundaries, so if I don't have time, sometimes I'll still do it, but this is the thing. And my favorite thing is Black women in history. Read your Black women in history, all the movements, all the stuff that you can. It is beautiful. It fills the soul. And I believe we have Lizette next, lastly. And so bring it on home, Lizette.
Hi there. I just realized that the example that I want to share was not related as an allyship. That's why I raised my hand. So it's more about systemic racism that I went through. So I don't know if I should share, but it's not an allyship. So that's why I put my hands down.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Was Thanksgiving Day. I went to buy something that my kids really want for Thanksgiving. Like I went to this Portuguese place, which is called Nosso Talho. And I sensed that I didn't have any money in my Preso card. Then I decided, was cold, I decided to walk to Shopper Drug Mart to put some money. Then I took the street car, and then the people that check for payment, they came, two white ladies, they came in and yeah, they asked me for proof of payment, and I had 2 cards, but I knew that I put money in the one card, and the card had 0. But when they came in, I tried to take find the card, but I couldn't find. The one that I found is the one that has no funds. But I was like, I know, I just went to put some money in my balance is $30. She was like, no, you have to show me your proof of payment. I'm gonna charge you. I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Then the other side was a white lady sitting, and she didn't ask her to show proof of payment. Then I found the one that had the $30, and she checked, and she was like, oh, she didn't even apologize, and she passed the white lady and didn't ask for proof of payment. And the lady just looked at me and I looked at her like, oh my God, how come she didn't check that lady? And the white lady didn't even advocate for me. She just looked at me, and I felt so terrible that day. And I was glad that I put money in my card. And yeah, I felt so discriminated and very, very, very disappointed that people don't even care about nobody. And she didn't even apologize. Yeah.
Thank you, Lizette, for sharing. That's heartbreaking. And, you know, it just kind of highlights the need for people to step in when they can, where they can, and what, you know, we go through, you know, having, you know, not white skin in Canada that likes to tout itself as the great multiracial, we love everyone country. And it's like day-to-day interactions, systemic interactions does not match up with that image that Canada really likes to present itself as. How am I doing on time?
Doing great. And we ran out of time.
We are out of
you are out of time.
We are out of time. It's funny. Waleed was like, no, don't worry. You have that, because I was so worried that wasn't going to be on time. Like I didn't have enough. Waleed's like, no, you have more than enough. And I'm like, no, I don't believe you. So you were right.
Ambaro raised her hand. I think Ambaro wanted to say something real quick. Ambaro?
Please.
Oh yeah, hi everybody. Sorry I was working and I come late. Thank you very much for Joy that giving us all this information, and really it gives me kind of flashbacks when I come to Canada to present. I will share with you Allyships, what some of them is good. I was doing new in Canada and doing the cultural interpretation, and one of the welfare offices called our agency, Regent Park Community Health Center, and they said, please send us someone who speaks African language that can help us a client that they charged a lot of money. And this person doesn't speak English, neither, and very well educated, not as an educated person who can know at least the calculation and all that thing. What is this overpayment is, what she should pay, what is this deduction is. So when I was there, they thought that I am another non-colored lady. And they said, oh, you are the one who is interpreting? Then I said, yes. And really, I don't know the lady even, I am interpreting. Then when we enter in there and started interpretation, I find out that they are putting so many things in her mouth that in order she to accept whatever they charged her, in order to, that she to take all that overpayment and charge. Then I said, before you do that, this woman need at least to understand where or how you divide this overpayment and where did you get all these overpayments, and how she could at least do at least to understand where it come from, in order at least even in the future she to start and agree with you how she can pay. Oh, that they were 4 people. That woman is also an African young lady, and myself. So they said, oh, you want to ask us a question, or you want to wait to do a clarification? You are not interpreting what we said? Then I said, listen, lady, I am interpreter also. Don't forget, I am advocate for the community that I'm helping to do. So after that, anyway, they got upset and one of them left. The other one, I said, this is not right. And this woman has a right at least to go in a challenge or to go a legal perspective to get at least a help to understand what it is. So at least I said, I'm sorry if it is like this. I see it is an oppression. It is kind of intimidating this young woman. I think that woman was also 4 months. She has a child of 4 months.
Wow.
Old. And imagine in that situation when women have a child and have a problem with that, the kind of postpartum depression she was crying.
Wow.
And that's why I standed and I said, no, please explain it or make another time, because the woman cannot answer many questions that even if I explain her because of her emotion. Oh, we will hold another meeting, then we will find another internet. Then it's up to you, whatever you want. After I left, they called my supervisor and they said, what on the earth you send it us, this woman? We asked her in order, we are the one who requested her in order to interpret for us, but she was advocating and helping the client.
Yes.
My supervisor, thanks to her, that gives me a motivation. I to stand for many people. I don't care where I am, even if I'm in the court or if I am in welfare or if I am in police direction. She called them and she said, you know what? The reason I sent it you, do you know that? Because I know she will stand for the people that she is helping. And she is looking at the people is right. And that's why she is not only for you, she is also has a right to help with the people that she is interpreting.
Thank you, Ambaro. That's why we love you, Ambaro.
Absolutely.
Always speaking up.
So,
Love it.
To have an alliance, that is good. Mwah! I love you, all of you, Joy. I see you there.
Oh,
Say hi to
Amparo,
everybody.
thank you so much for coming.
You're
My
welcome,
aunties,
guys. I
my
see you. Bye.
aunties Jeannie and
I'm
Amparo. Oh
excited.
my gosh. Like
Yeah.
it's been, and as Amparo's talking, I'm like, oh, this is the Amparo I remember from when I was a baby. And yeah, and Jeannie's like looking,
I
I'm like,
love you guys.
not messing with her, man. We knew. We knew back then, we know now.
Okay, Joy, do you have any final remarks before we move on?
No, just awesome. Thank you so much. It's been such an honor, and much love to the Regent Park community. You made me who I am, everything I am, I owe to y'all. And thank you so much for having me. And yeah, thank you for letting me share some knowledge.
Thank
Thank you for being thank you for your time. Thank you for your generosity, your wisdom. Ishmael?
Yeah, so thank you. We've come to the end of our meeting. However, there's a few announcements we'd like to make. But before that, I just want to say what a fantastic night. I remember when I first came to Canada, Ambaro was one of the first supports we got as a family. My father, my mother, she advocated for us on multiple fronts. So it just brought tears to my heart that today I'm working in the neighborhood and I'm volunteering for the neighborhood association, and I'm able to participate in community work and the connections and relationships and the work and the learning all comes together. It's such a meaningful night, and I want to thank everybody that's contributed to this night and the hard work of the leadership team in terms of organizing this monthly meeting. We will have monthly meetings going forward, and it will be on different thematic points, is to provide opportunities to update the community, to share from the community. So I want to, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank everybody from the leadership team to the attendees, to everybody who's participated tonight. In terms of last comments, these are some community meetings that are happening. Please join us. We need resident leadership. We need everybody as an asset to do community work. This is some of the community events that are happening. Safety meeting happening on the Monday, the February 28th, 5:30 to 7:30. The Employment and Economic Development meets the third Tuesday of every month. Communication also meets, and community building. Please join these meetings. They are open meetings for residents, organizations, anybody who wants to do community work. And this is how we do work, collaboration. And the last piece is announcement. If you are, or you know someone who's a woman entrepreneur, there's a group that's been created, a women's entrepreneurship group. Please connect them to this email, regentparkeed@gmail.com. One of our, this is one of the most exciting initiatives. Say that again. This is one of the most exciting initiatives we're starting, a Women Entrepreneurship Network and a group. Please email that if you know someone who's interested or if you yourself are interested. From the RPNA leadership team, thank you for coming tonight. And Marlene, would you like to have a final word?
Oh, I'm absolutely thrilled. You know that we went 20 minutes over and one person left. So I'm absolutely delighted. And the fact that we're getting this going again after 2 years is the most exciting thing ever. We did this before COVID, and it was wonderful getting people out. And so when we do get together, we're going to have a big, wonderful space at Daniel Spectrum where we can actually get together in person. And I'm really looking forward to that because it's a great space. But this is sensational that we can get together. And I'm absolutely delighted that you were here. And please, if you have any ideas, if anything comes to you that you think we should be talking about or you think would be of interest, contact Pavitra at RPNA and let her know. And we will certainly consider any topic that you think is of interest. And we would be very pleased to consider, anything you bring up. So thank you so much for being here. been
Yeah.
a great evening.
Have a good night, community. And for those who love after parties, we're sticking around for informal chats. You can also stick around for an informal chat as well. Thank you, everybody.
So before we end the night, I just want to quickly remind folks that RPNA is looking for a market resident to join as well. So if you're a market resident and interested in being part of the leadership team, please contact Pavitra as well, and she'll help support you with that request. And yeah, thank you to both our co-chairs, Ishmael and Marlene. And I guess the after party has started. Could we stop recording?
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit that little bell notification. And don't forget to check us out on all our social medias. And if you want to see more, check our website.